So WrestleMania 41 supposedly will be the last WrestleMania of one of the most popular pro wrestlers of all time, John Cena. And there's just nothing interesting happening regarding that at all. Oh, except for him winning the Elimination Chamber 2025 and turning heel. Yes, John Cena is a bad guy. That's a real thing that happened. Big match Johnny won a big match and then kicked Cody Rhodes in his big match region and aligning himself with The Rock as the two-man power trip that is out to take down a beloved hero of the day. It's the cherry on the top for Cena, who's built himself up a piping hot stack of WrestleMania moments and matches over the last 2 decades. He's had crazy entrances with marching bands and gangster cars. He lifted the Edge and the Big Show on his shoulders at the same time, proving that he is indeed a superhuman. He took on The Rock not just once in a lifetime, but twice, and most of all, he won. But we're not here to talk about the wins. This is Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm Kevin, and we're going to take a look at the WrestleMania loss that changed everything for John Cena. Okay, hit that like button and subscribe. You know all the internet stuff. Now get in the comments, though, and tell us also, when did a big loss do something significant for a wrestler you love? Let us know. John Cena wasn't a man who was used to losing big matches, especially at WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year. He was the face of the WWE for over a decade, a juggernaut at the merchandise stand, and the biggest star who we've seen come out of wrestling in a long time. It just makes sense for him to win at the end of the show or in the middle of the show or anywhere he's on the show. He's John Cena. He beat JBL to win his first WWE Championship in 2005 at Mania, then retained said title against both Triple H and Shawn Michaels at the next 2 WrestleManias, respectively. He beat Edge and The Big Show for the World Heavyweight Championship in 2009. He beat an evil Batista for the WWE Championship in 2010. He took on The Rock in 2013 for the WWE title in a controversial rematch because the first one was supposed to be once in a lifetime, but hey, why not twice? Are we getting thrice in a lifetime? We'll talk about that in a different video. He took down Bray Wyatt in another controversial clash at WrestleMania 30, and then he beat the Big Rusev in another controversial match where somebody thought a younger superstar should win in 2015. Somebody's gotta beat those monsters, you know? He got engaged to Nikki Bella, which we all saw coming, in the ring at WrestleMania 33, following a mixed tag team match over less powerful couple Miz and Maurice, which was actually the last time John Cena won at WrestleMania. His last few victories arguably squashed the momentum of some rising monster heels, but on the other hand, they got to work some high-profile programs with one of the biggest names in the business on the biggest show, so it's not like there can be many complaints, all things considered. Would it have made more sense in the long-term perspective to build new talent and topple these monsters? Yeah, probably. They still got a lot of eyes on them from working with one Mr. Cena. All of Cena's other WrestleMania appearances, especially in recent years, have either been non-wrestling ones or losses. Let's look at some of those losses. His first loss came in a triple threat match with Triple H and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 24 in 2008. Orton, the defending champion, retained in a surprising move by WWE given how often Cena and Triple H had been world champions in the mid to late 2000s and how heavily they featured themselves in the build to the match. It didn't really derail Cena that much. He was back winning his ways the following year. His next loss in 2011 to The Miz, of all people, with the Awesome One defending the WWE Championship against him to close out WrestleMania 27. Obviously, The Rock was involved in that, pulling off an upset with the help of The Rock. This set up Cena's confrontation with The Rock the following year. But The Rock versus Cena showdown that was already confirmed for WrestleMania 28 more than a year in advance, prior to WrestleMania 27 taking place. So again, it really doesn't change that much. It was more like a bump in the road, with Cena and Rock having a rivalry. Once in a lifetime in itself was another notable loss for Cena at WrestleMania in Miami. This clash was with The Rock and a monumental level of revived popularity, and it really seemed like it would have changed everything for Cena, especially when he lost. The former biggest star in the company coming back and beating the current biggest star in the company. It was so impactful because we didn't know they were going to rematch the following year. We actually believed it would be once in a lifetime in 2012. It felt like the 90s, early 2000s coming back to assert their dominance over Cena's 2010s era. It had a lot of potential when it came to developing the character of John Cena and giving him a certain level of depth that would give his character a lot more interesting things to do in the future. Maybe he wasn't as good as he thought he was, or WWE was maybe seeing the cracks in what he had already built. Except no, because he shook the loss off the very next month, taking down the returning red-hot Brock Lesnar at Extreme Rules in 2012. I saw both of these matches. Fans who loved Cena really loved him, and when he got attacked by Brock Lesnar right after that WrestleMania, people thought Brock Lesnar's now going to crush him. In Chicago at Extreme Rules, Cena got the win. It was a brutal match, but Cena redeemed himself a little bit and gained back some of his momentum. But it was still odd that Brock Lesnar, who just came back to WWE, was eating the L on this one. Before he redeemed himself the following year at WrestleMania 29, twice in a lifetime was what we were going to get with The Rock. The WrestleMania 28 loss didn't really change things that much for John Cena. It was meant to make him reflective and give him more drive and motivation. If anything, it ended up making him look more unbeatable than he already was. You could argue the next loss Cena suffered at WrestleMania did change quite a bit for him. This time at WrestleMania 34 in an oddly built match against The Undertaker. The build to Cena versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 34 was built on the idea of, is it actually going to happen? Will The Undertaker show up? It wasn't the smoothest presentation, but it was certainly an interesting one, and it was built around John Cena desperate to get The Undertaker to show up and give him a WrestleMania moment, calling him out in a last-ditch attempt to get on the card. Taker eventually obliged on the night of the event and took down Cena in a few minutes in a squash match. You would think this would be a significant loss for Cena, but it was such a short match with a very odd, bumpy build that it came across more like a moment, an elaborate angle, than a big-time WrestleMania match. It did mark the beginning of a shorter, less physical match type for Big Match Johnny at WrestleMania, an effective way to get him into the card without derailing any of his Hollywood commitments outside of professional wrestling with a potential injury. Maybe a few years earlier, John Cena versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania would have had a little bit more meat on the bone. I remember seeing this match in person in New Orleans with a more casual fan who simply told me The Undertaker showed up and he played the hits. Undertaker did claim in his Last Ride docuseries that he was ready to wrestle longer that year, but plans changed, pal, in the production build-up to the big-time match that was just a match, technically. It was cool, it just wasn't exactly what people were expecting or exactly wanted from Cena versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker in the Last Ride docuseries, which if you've not watched it, please seek it out. It's up on Peacock. Go watch. It's awesome. It's one of the best things WWE's done in terms of a documentary. He revealed that he trained to have a much longer and arduous match that year, but plans changed ahead of New Orleans. The squash aspect of that match didn't do much for the match itself, considering that Brock Lesnar had already beastily beat down Cena in a far more emphatic fashion to tell that kind of story at SummerSlam 2014. The Undertaker loss didn't change everything for Cena, but it set him up on a path to one that did. His next WrestleMania loss against a very spooky dude. Yes, we're finally there. At this point in the video, the most devastating loss ever, suffered by Big Match Johnny Cena, something that changed the entire trajectory for his character for years to come. Something that may have happened in a way to set up what happened in 2025. And it all took place behind closed doors with no fans present. WrestleMania 36 had the cloud of the worldwide COVID lockdown. It was the first ever two-night WrestleMania, an experiment for WWE during a very challenging time, with streaming fans tuning in around the world for an escape from the very sad headlines we were all enduring at the same time. Originally, John Cena was set to take on Bray Wyatt in a new match concept that was advertised as the Firefly Fun House match at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, Florida. However, when the world decided it was going to close down for a little bit, WWE had to get creative with how they presented their content. One of these creative changes came in the form of cinematic match presentations, completely pre-produced matches that maybe didn't use the traditional in-a-ring type concept, which WWE did to add a variety to their empty arena shows. WrestleMania 36 that year featured two cinematic matches: the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles, and the initially planned Firefly Fun House match with Cena and the supernatural Bray Wyatt. Beginning with the standard Cena entrance, minus the usual divided crowd noise, it seemed like a standard empty arena match, but obviously, it's something you can experiment with and do a lot of different things with, and boy did they. Bray Wyatt quickly interrupted the feed, and the whole thing descended into nightmares, becoming a fever dream somewhere between a wrestling match and a short horror film. During the match, Bray took Cena to a twisted tour of his own career, showing all of the terrifying lows, the dizzying highs, and the creamy middles. Creamy? Did we really use creamy in the script? Throughout, Bray Wyatt reveled in showing Cena all of his misdeeds and positioned the 16-time world champion as the bad guy in his own story. A bad guy who squashed up-and-comers for the benefit of his own career. Comparing Cena to some other prominent figures of wrestling's villainous past, cue the photo of John Cena in an NWO shirt. The NWO, New World Order. Because, for some eerie reason, Bray Wyatt may have been foreshadowing what we got in 2025. A hello from the future by a mystic wrestling swamp wizard. All of John Cena's chickens were coming out to roost in a sheer nightmare encounter, except it wasn't chickens. It was an evil, demented entity who slightly resembled a killer clown who lived inside of Bray Wyatt's head, coming for Cena in a malevolent offspring of a Dungeon of Doom segment. Bray and the Fiend were showing Cena who he really was, at least from their twisted perspective. And their perspective of hardcore fans and the internet wrestling comment sections. He's holding down people! John Cena sucks! I don't like that children and women like him! We even saw glimpses of the old school Wyatt family Bray Wyatt during the match, rocking in a chair. Yeah, the Eater of Pins avenging his WrestleMania 30 loss. It all culminated with the Fiend showing up, grabbing Cena's face, slapping on the claw, and putting him down for Wyatt to claim the victory. After this, Cena disappeared from the ring and from WWE television for quite a while. Some theorized that he might never return, and the Fiend put a permanent end to one Mr. Cena and sent him off to Hollywood forever. That wasn't to be, but it was definitely a paradigm shift in John Cena's WWE presence and how he would be presented moving forward. He would be gone for well over a year, starting with WrestleMania 36 on April 5th, 2020, until July 18th, 2021. It did seem prior to the Firefly Fun House that Cena was going to retire, or at least scale down his career, especially when he and The Fiend first came face-to-face in February of 2020. But it wasn't the end of Cena. It was just the beginning of the end, maybe. He never really won afterward, going on a multi-match skid. As WWE returned to live events coming out of the pandemic, Cena did play a role in being a big draw for that, but mainly in tag team matches and losing to Roman Reigns at the SummerSlam in Las Vegas a few years ago. But still, that Firefly Funhouse thing predicted everything that Cena would become in 2025. And if only it took half a decade for the mask to truly slip and for us to see the Cena we get now going into WrestleMania 41. Maybe his own Fiend is here. Or maybe he just embraced the hate, if you want to go back even further. Poor Zack Ryder in his neck brace. Bray Wyatt may have been the devil on John Cena's broad shoulder, showing him a condescending, dream-squashing, megalomaniacal man that John Cena would become in 2025, giving us a little sneak peek of the evil that Cena had suppressed, being a good guy who never gave up. And giving that this is such an unheard of thing that WWE apparently would never do under Vince McMahon's WWE, it feels like it's something that Triple H would do with his creative vision to truly throw curveballs at diehard and casual fans alike. It also marked a shift in Cena's WrestleMania roles. Yeah, he didn't appear at both WrestleMania 37 and WrestleMania 38, meaning he was no match Johnny instead. When he did wrestle at WrestleMania again, it was in an underwhelming match against Austin Theory at WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles, where he didn't seem like the same John Cena, and maybe that's a part of this story that we're getting right now as well. As Cena and Theory battled for the United States Championship, it was clear that Cena may have been experiencing some ring rust, and that he had little to no in-ring chemistry with the up-and-coming Theory. Some have debated that. Austin Theory picked up the win and retained the US Championship, which should have been a big win on paper for him. He beat John Cena at WrestleMania. However, it didn't give him the rub that beating a pre-2020 Cena would have, given that Cena barely resembled his former self in the match at all. He was no longer the man to beat. He was a man, a mortal man. Similar to how The Undertaker had been in his own clash with Cena back at WrestleMania 34. In our opinion, at least, it all started at WrestleMania 36 at the Firefly Fun House, with the late, great Bray Wyatt truly lending himself to what we see in WWE now. He showed the fans the real Cena. Yeah, the heel Cena. More importantly than that, he showed Cena the real heel Cena. Clearly, John liked what he saw, and if Elimination Chamber 2025 is anything to go by, and a lot of fans will go by it, Bray and the Fiend got into his head and planted the seeds of the evil that he has become in his last ever WrestleMania, simply by beating him up a little bit inside his head and in his soul. It's crazy what being strangled by a half-man, half-demon in an alternate dimension can do to a guy. Spooky dudes just getting things done. Yeah, and that about wraps up this video. What do you think? Was the Firefly Fun House John Cena's most devastating WrestleMania loss? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more videos just like this. And also, hit that subscribe button. Seriously, share the link with the page. Let's crack 200,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.